you were always you were not a huge believer in Mazzulla, at least during the playoffs. You liked him being throughout the season, but in the playoffs, a little wavering on Europe, a little bit. So I don't know. Do you think it's smart for the Celtics to stick with Mazzulla as their head coach at least next season and probably
I think they have to. I mean, I don't think they should have made him the full-time coach, given him the full-time job during the year. They should have left him as an interim for the whole year this year. Partway through the year, they gave it to him. After that, the Celtics seemed to be a little, they weren't as consistent. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but he's got some, I'm sure he figures he learned a lot in this playoff series, right? He made some mistakes in the timing of taking timeouts and some of his substitutions and changing the starting lineup and things. It didn't always work out so well for him. He's a young guy. He's committed. Danny Ainge came out and supported him, said he's a better coach than Udoka. So he needs to get the Celtics to play better defense. I mean, they definitely leaned on the three-pointer and offense a little too heavily, and it cost them. They need to get back to playing fundamental defense and not turning the ball over. My God, the turnovers were terrible in the last game of the series there, and I think they got to look at the team and decide whether they want to make a few changes there. I do think they will bring back Jaylen Brown. It's going to cost them a lot of money, but I think trading him right now, they might not get as much for him as if he has a chance to rebound from a playoff series, which was a little checkered. I mean, he had a bunch of turnovers and trying to drive into the lane, losing the ball. I think he didn't shoot so well from three. So he didn't have the kind of playoff series that he had last year. He took a little bit of a step back, but I do think they will sign him. And, if he has a really good year and they still don't make it next year, then maybe they'll trade him. I don't know. I do think they'll probably look at Brogdon and who's their other guard? Not Smart, the other
Peyton
one. Pritchard, yeah. I think those guys might be gone. They may try to get them out of there to get another big guy because Al Horford is getting old, and it showed a little bit in the playoffs. I mean, play an 82-game season and then the playoffs and those games, two of them series went 7 games. I think it's maybe he's getting just a little bit old, and his three-point shooting was not good in the playoffs this year. So I do think they're going to make some changes. I think the core three there, Smart, Brown, and Tatum will still be there next year. Mazzulla will be the head coach. They're going to bring in a strong assistant under him. If he doesn't do really well, he's going to be looking over his shoulder at that assistant who might wind up being the next head coach. So we'll have to wait and see.
I think it's interesting, and I've defended Mazzulla, and I'm not putting this series on Joe Mazzulla. Now, he may put it on himself because he's the head coach, and that's sort of what you do as a head coach. And he said in interviews, this on me, I didn't get the guys ready, I didn't get them going. At some point, you got to realize Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the Celtics just didn't come to play. I mean, Game 7 was not on Mazzulla. Game 7 was just on the inability of the Celtics to make shots. I mean, in Game 6 and 7, their 3-point totals, do I still have the number here? I do. They shot 16 of 77, which is 20.7% in totality of Game 6 and 7. They could not hit a 3 for the life of them, and I thought it was a very ceremonious end to the Celtics season. Because guess what? Mazzulla and Ime Udoka have 2 different play styles. Ime Udoka, old school, heavy defense, commit 110% on both sides of the court. Mazzulla is a 3 guy. He's new school, 3 ball. Let's focus on the 3. That's why Derek White was in the starting lineup. Derek White last year was on the bench. However, look what happened in the series. The Celtics, they can get hot from 3. We saw it in Game 4. In Game 4. They could not miss from 3. In Game 5, they were even hotter. So I think they started, what was it? They had 15 to 5 early in the first quarter, one of those games. They could not miss from 3. They had like 41% shooting from three in one of those games. And in game 6 and 7, now they did win game 6. However, they finally died by the three. So, but it wasn't Udoka's fault. It wasn't like...
why did they fall apart in games 6 and 7 in the three-point shooting? What do you think it was?
It wasn't because they were afraid to shoot a three.
That's for sure. They shot 77 of them.
They just... I mean, I really just... This. I'm not putting this on Mazzulla whatsoever. I mean, if you...
But why'd they do so poorly when they were a great three-point shooting team all season? How come they fell apart in those last 2 games? What was it, do you think?
I really just think they don't... I mean, first of all, Tatum does not have this killer mentality, this drive, this high motor. He doesn't. He does not take over games. I think, honestly, it was just... It simply was, at least in game 6 and 7, they may have gotten complacent. I think in game 7, they were like, okay, we just won 3 straight games. We just beat them in game 6 on a buzzer beater. They were this close to putting us away. They're not ready. And then they came out in game 7 and he were like, no. We got this. This is our series. I think they honestly took 1 step back where they should have taken 2 steps forward. Instead, they took 1 step back and the Heat just ran right by them in game 7. I just think the Celtics just did not care enough to win. I mean, Marcus Smart was hitting threes. I mean,
he didn't have a good game 7.
He didn't. No one had a good game 7.
Well, Derek White did.
Derek White had an okay game 7. But Al Horford also could not hit a 3 for the life of him. So, yeah, you bring up Al Horford. I'm not saying he has to go because
I think they'll bring him back.
I do think veteran leadership is big on that team, especially when your superstars are 26, 27 years old. I do think it's important. I was actually going back and forth on whether or not they should bring back Jaylen Brown, and I thought it'd be a better idea to bring him back than to let him go and trade him away.
I mean, they have made the conference finals 3 years in a row.
And ever since Marcus Smart got there in 2014-15, that season, they haven't even missed the playoffs. They made 5 conference finals. They made NBA finals. So this team together is super young, and they haven't missed the playoffs yet. It's just about getting over that hump. What can they do to be a championship team? And honestly, truthfully...
Well, they had it last year. They played better defense.
But it was because...
last year they made the finals because they played better defense. That's what they need to do.
Also,
they need to play better
Jason
defense.
Tatum didn't have these ups and downs.
I don't know. He turned the ball over 100 times in the playoffs last year.
Right. He was dropping 40 points here, 40 points there, 45 points there, going 1 for 1 with Giannis. Now it was like 25 points, 31 points, 32 points. He had one game where he had 51 points. One game. But then it went straight back down to nothing. And then Jaylen Brown wasn't this consistency. It was more...
he didn't have a good playoff.
It was more the flip. It was consistently poor. And his three-point shooting was terrible. I think, was it game 7 or game 6? They combined for 17 or something from 3? It was terrible to see. I'm going to look up the starting lineup of the Celtics here last season because I'm trying to remember who the shooting guard was last season. Because it wasn't Derek White.
Jaylen Brown. They started Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Tatum, and Williams.
Okay. And that was the lineup they should have gone with. But
they did. They did go with that.
They did. Then they went down 0-3, and then Mazzulla was like, "Okay, let's switch it up." Oh no, they switched up in Game 3 when they lost.
No, they switched it up in the Philadelphia series.
No. But then he reverted it.
Then he reverted it, and they lost.
And they started losing.
Yeah.
And then they started winning after. I think Game 3 he switched. And I came on the show and said it wasn't your quarter 1, 2, and 3 that you needed to score more points. It was quarter 4. Which made no sense in my mind why you would put your 3-point shooting team out to start with when your quarters 1 to 3 weren't the problem. So I don't know if it's Mazzulla needs to just be harder coaching.
He needs to coach defense. They need to play better defense. They need to bring in an assistant coach that's a really good defensive mind. I think that would help them.
Would you stick with a smaller 3-point shooting lineup though, and just hope that you could coach hard defense into them? Or would you go back to the tough defensive one?
I think I'd bring back the same team. I mean,
you
why
would
not?
Bring back the same team.
They made the conference finals. They went 7 games in the conference finals, and even though they went a kind of a weird way to get there, they did go 7 games in the conference finals. They blew it in the last game, but they had a good season. You can't say they didn't. They were the number 2 seed, so they lost to the 8th seed, but And Miami was in the conference finals last year. I don't know why they had such a terrible regular season.
I believe they're also the number 1 seed last year as well.
Yeah. So I don't know why they had such a poor regular season, but they are a playoff team. They are
right.
They have experience in the playoffs. So I think that the Celtics will basically bring back the same team.
I think that's actually a pretty good idea, but you need to put someone in there because when they got Malcolm Brogdon, I think the problem last year was they didn't have a true point guard. They did not have a true distributor.
They didn't let him be a starter.
He was
a sixth man.
I believe they started him in the starting lineup early in the season, and when he wasn't getting the production he needed, that's when he went back down to sixth man. I believe they did start him for the beginning of the season. I think I'm remembering that. But then he wasn't really that guy, and he was a six-man.
I think they should hang on to him, personally.
I do as well. But if you want to get a good distributor, you got to at least give up maybe a Marcus Smart.
They're not going to bring him. But if they want to play better defense, they're going to hang on to him. Then he's a very good defensive player. Maybe Danilo Gallinari is going to come back, right?
Gallinari.
Right? Maybe. They have him, right? He's a very good three-point shooter. He come off the bench, and he's big. He's huge.
Yeah.
Right? So he's old. Yeah, that's the only problem, maybe.
34. He's going to be 35 by the start of next season.
Yeah.
He didn't play this year, but last season...
What injury did he have?
It was, ACL, I believe. Towards ACL in the... was it preseason or in the offseason? I'm trying to remember.
It was the offseason.
It was before anyone was playing true basketball, so... It's going to be interesting to see what the Celtics do moving forward. I think it's a smart idea to bring Mazzulla back. I mean, think about it.
You can't fire him. I mean,
he
he's
won
a young
more
guy.
games than Ime Udoka. He won more games. So, I think he won, six more games than Udoka did. So, it's not like he, destroyed the Celtics team. Hell, they made him...
Udoka had a better playoff team last year than they had this year.
No, yeah, I agree.
He was more consistent. They played better defense. They made it to the finals.
Right. And Udoka did give them their best defensive rating since 2011-2012, which is incredibly impressive. But however, I'm looking at it here. Mazzulla did give the Celtics their best offensive rating in the entire history of the Boston Celtics.
Really?
So they were incredible offensively. Defensively, though, they were not too good. They were not too good. It was about the same as Brad Stevens last year as head coach defensively, which that season ended with going out, I believe, in the first round to the Brooklyn Nets, if I'm not mistaken. So Brad Stevens is holding on to Joe Mazzulla. I don't think that's a terrible idea. We'll see how the Celtics rebound off this, whether or not they keep Jaylen Brown. That's going to be a huge question mark. Whether or not they sign him to that Supermax extension, which is $295 million, I believe.
Unbelievable. How can they have salaries like that? I don't get it. Yeah.
It's a good question.
How many years is that for?
5.
5 years, $295 million.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combined, both on Supermaxes, $613 million.
What is Jason Tatum's contract? Where does he stand in his contract?
Well, how many years left or the price?
The years left.
Let's see. I'll look it up. I don't have this in front of me. Jason Tatum, he was on. Let's see. He's on a player option in 2023. In 2 years, 2025, 2026. He has a player option. He won't be an official unrestricted free agent until 2026.
I see.
So he's still got a couple years left.
Yeah.
So he could get that extension for over $300 million.
They won't let him get to the player option year. After next year, if they do well, they're gonna give him some big deal too.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
So Mazzulla back, more wins than Udoka. Defense was not great. However, they were third in defensive rating, and they allowed the fifth fewest points in the league. But
this past year,
yeah, they in opponent points per game, the Celtics were. I have it in front of me. Give me 1 second. I just had it. They were fifth, 111.4 points a game.
They were 1 last year. The year before, yeah. Yes,
no, they were number 1, and also second defensive rating. They were third this year, but they weren't as good offensively. So you gave up a little bit, but it seemed honestly last year was Tatum just exploding. Tatum had phenomenal games, and honestly, it was Grant Williams in Game 7 against the Bucks. He had 1,000 threes in that game to actually push them beyond. Tatum didn't have a great game in Game 7 against the Bucks. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to be very interested to see what this team does moving forward. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made. A lot of players could potentially be available. Fred VanVleet's available. James Harden. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Karis LeVert, who's a pretty good defensive guard. He could be a free agent this year, coming from the Cavs. So they might want to maybe Marcus Smart for Karis LeVert. Maybe something like that.
I don't think so. They're not going to give up on Marcus Smart.
I'm throwing names out there. I don't really believe that.
They might add a guard, though. Maybe they could add a guard, I think.
Trade away Derek White, maybe get another shooter.
They're not going to trade away Derek White.
I'm saying.
Derek White is...
Derek White has value.
Gold. He's gold.
Exactly. You could trade him.
Yeah, but why trade him? You want to keep him. He's good. Well, they're not going to trade Derek White. Come on. That's not happening.
How about this? If they get rid of Derek White, would you want James Harden on the Celtics?
No.
Oh, really?
James Harden is he's inconsistent. Look at the series in the Philadelphia.
Right.
Philadelphia.
But he did drop 40 twice.
Yeah, but he was horrible in the last game.
No, I agree with that. He was not very good.
No.
But
he's too old. If 4 years ago, I would say yes. Not
4 years ago, James Harden was an MVP. So
yeah, well, that's why I'd say yes. But
think about this.
Now.
Think about this. James Harden dropped 40 plus points twice in a playoff series. Derek White's career high is 33 points.
Yeah. Or maybe they could hang on to Derek White and also get James Harden. He's a free agent, right?
Oh, but wait, I just realized you need to pay him a bunch of money that they're not going to have.
Yeah, they're not going to have it.
Because they're going to give it all to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Oh, just based on that, you might want to get off Jaylen Brown. I'm not saying they should, but you may have to if you want to get keep this franchise afloat, because the new
they made it to the conference finals. They went 7 games.
I know, but they were down 3-0.
Right. Yeah,
they did not look like they were together
they
as a team.
made mistakes along the way, but they can correct those.
I
don't think they're blowing the team up. Nor should they.
I could agree with that.
I do think they could add a piece.
Definitely.
Maybe a big guy. It would be nice to have a real, maybe through the draft. Are there any good big guys in the draft?
Well, you're not going to get the guy, Victor Wembanyama. He's going number 1 to the Spurs probably. You got to look at it. I'm not sure. I'm curious to see what the Celtics do. There's a lot of questions. They
don't have a first round pick, I don't think, in the draft.
I don't know.
It's a second rounder.
So we will see. They may trade it away, get someone. Who knows? But
Grant Williams, maybe they get rid of him.
They got I appreciate.
I think he's a free agent anyway.
I appreciate Grant Williams. I don't think they should keep him. Truthfully, I don't. I appreciate what he's done. He's not worth it. I think
he's a free agent.
He shot too many offers. Several games where he shot 0 for 3, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. Like, no, thank you. But it is what it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.